The last time my daughter called me, our conversation lasted exactly 43 seconds. She said, "Mom, I'm busy. I'll call you properly this weekend." That weekend came and went. Then another. Then an entire month. My son wasn't much different. He answered my messages with a heart emoji or the same two words that slowly began to break me. Call later. But later never came. Every evening, I placed my phone beside my dinner plate. I kept the volume high, afraid I might miss their call while washing a dish or walking into another room. Some nights, I thought I heard it ringing. I would hurry toward it, only to discover that the house was still completely silent. Then came my 72nd birthday. I prepared enough food for 6 people. But by 9 o'clock that night, every chair around my table was still empty. That was the moment I made a decision my children never expected. But before I tell you what I did, you need to understand something. I wasn't angry with them. I was simply tired of disappearing while I was still alive. My name is Margaret. I raised 2 children mostly on my own after their father died when they were young. I worked during the day and cleaned offices at night. I missed meals, wore the same winter coat for 11 years, and quietly saved every spare dollar for their education. I never considered it a sacrifice. They were my children. Loving them felt as natural as breathing. When they became adults, I expected their lives to become busy. I knew they would have careers, relationships, children, and responsibilities of their own. I never wanted to control them. I didn't need daily visits or long conversations. I only wanted to feel that I still had a place in their lives. At first, they called every few days. Then it became every few weeks. Eventually, I noticed that every conversation began because I had called them. If I stopped reaching out, there was silence. So I tried harder. I sent messages reminding them to eat properly. I asked about their work. I mailed birthday cards to the grandchildren and called on every special occasion. I kept telling myself, they're busy. Don't take it personally. But loneliness has a strange way of making you negotiate against your own feelings. You accept crumbs and convince yourself they are a meal. You make excuses for people because admitting that you feel forgotten is simply too painful. Then my birthday arrived. I baked my son's favorite pie. I prepared the potatoes exactly the way my daughter liked them. Then I placed 6 plates around the table. At 7 o'clock, my daughter sent a message. "Sorry, Mom. Something came up." 10 minutes later, my son wrote, "Happy birthday. We'll celebrate soon." I sat at that table until the candles burned down. And then I finally understood. I had been postponing my happiness while waiting for people who kept postponing me. That night, I didn't send an angry message. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't post something sad online, hoping they would feel guilty. Instead, I turned off my phone. The silence felt frightening at first. For years, my phone had been my connection to the life I thought I was supposed to have. Without it beside me, I was forced to look around. The house was quiet, but it was still mine. The food was untouched, but it was still warm. And I was alone, but I was still here. So I wrapped several plates and carried them across the street to my neighbor, Ruth. She was 76 and had lost her husband the previous winter. We had exchanged polite greetings before, but we had never truly spoken. When she opened the door, I lifted the pie and said, "It's my birthday, and I made far too much food. Would you help me eat it?" Ruth looked at the candles and then at me. Her eyes filled with tears. "It's my husband's birthday too," she whispered. That evening, 2 lonely women sat together and shared a birthday dinner meant for people who never arrived. We laughed more than I had laughed in months. And something changed inside me. For the first time, I realized I wasn't waiting for a phone call anymore. I was living. The following morning, I made myself a promise. I would never again measure my worth by how quickly my children returned my calls. Part 4. The next Monday, I visited the community center I had passed hundreds of times. For years, I had told myself I would go there one day. But one day is a dangerous place. Nothing ever happens there. So I walked inside. My hands were shaking. Everyone seemed to know one another, and I nearly turned around. Then a woman named Helen waved me over. She asked me to join their book club. I almost said no. I hadn't finished a book in years. But then I remembered my promise. So I sat down. One meeting became two. Soon, I joined a morning walking group. I started learning how to paint, even though my first landscape looked more like a bowl of green soup. I volunteered at the local library on Thursdays. I drank coffee with Ruth every Sunday. I began wearing the blue dress I had been saving for a special occasion. Then I realized that being alive was the special occasion. Something else happened too. I stopped sending my children daily messages. Not to punish them. Not to make them worry. I simply stopped chasing the connection alone. Whenever I wanted to call, I asked myself, am I calling because I have something joyful to share, or because I need them to prove that I matter? That question changed everything. Sometimes I called. But sometimes, I put the phone down and went outside instead. For the first time in years, my days were no longer empty spaces between their calls. Part 5. 3 weeks passed before my daughter noticed. She called on a Tuesday evening. Mom, is everything okay? You haven't been messaging. For a moment, the old version of me wanted to say, I've been waiting for you. Why did it take you 3 weeks? But anger would have hidden what I truly needed her to understand. So I answered calmly. I'm all right. I've just been busy living. There was silence. Busy doing what? She asked. I told her about Ruth, the walking group, and my disastrous painting. I told her I was volunteering at the library. She sounded surprised. Then she said something I will never forget. I didn't realize you were lonely. Those words hurt, but they also revealed the truth. I had spent years hiding my loneliness because I didn't want to become a burden. Whenever my children asked how I was, I said, I'm fine. I hoped they would somehow hear everything I wasn't saying. But people cannot always understand pain we keep carefully hidden. So I told her the truth. I know you have a busy life. I don't expect you to call every day. But sometimes, I feel as if I'm the only person keeping our relationship alive. I love you, but I can't continue begging to feel included. My voice trembled, but I didn't take the words back. My daughter began to cry. She apologized. I didn't immediately say, it's okay, because it hadn't been okay. Instead, I said, I forgive you. But I want things to change. That was the boundary I should have expressed years earlier. Not a threat. Not a punishment. Just the truth spoken with dignity. Part 6. The following Sunday, my daughter came to visit. My son arrived an hour later with my grandchildren. They expected to find the same woman sitting beside the phone, ready to arrange her entire day around them. Instead, they found me preparing to leave for a painting exhibition at the community center. My son looked surprised. You didn't tell us you were going somewhere. I smiled. You didn't ask. There was no cruelty in my voice. Only honesty. They came with me. My painting, a small picture of two women sharing a birthday pie, was hanging near the back of the room. It wasn't the best painting there. But when Ruth and I stood beside it, I felt proud. My granddaughter asked what it meant. I told her. It's about the night I stopped waiting for my life to begin. My children became more consistent after that. They didn't transform into perfect people overnight. Sometimes they still became busy. Sometimes a week passed without a call. But the relationship was no longer carried entirely by me. More importantly, my happiness no longer depended entirely on them. That was what they never expected. I didn't disappear to teach them a lesson. I didn't cut them off. I simply stopped abandoning myself to keep chasing them. And when I changed, our relationship changed too. Ending. If your adult children rarely call, please remember this. Their silence may hurt you, but it does not decide your value. You can love your children without begging for their attention. You can miss them without putting your entire life on hold. You can tell them honestly what you need without shouting, blaming, or making them feel guilty. And if they still remain distant, you are allowed to build joy somewhere else. Call an old friend. Meet a neighbor. Join a group. Return to the hobby you abandoned years ago. Wear the clothes you have been saving. Cook the meal you love, even if you are the only person sitting at the table. Your children can be an important part of your life, but they should not be your entire reason for living. Sometimes, the most powerful thing a parent can say is not, "Why don't you call me?" It is, "I love you, but I will not forget myself while waiting for you." Your life is still happening. Please don't spend it staring at a silent phone. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Aging Wisely. And share in the comments. Have you ever felt forgotten by someone you loved? Your story may help another person realize they are not alone.